First in would be the Pathfinders. Just before 10 o'clock, 5 June, C-47s took off from the south of England, carrying American paratroopers ordered to set up radar and lights inland to guide the main airborne assault. Because of anti-aircraft fire, their pilots were forced to take evasive action once over land. Of the 18 teams dropped into France, only one landed where it was supposed to. British commandos were dropped behind the beaches to secure 2 bridges to stop German armor. Their mission was far more successful than the Americans. They secured both bridges in 5 minutes. Right behind these 2 groups came the main airborne assault. Wave after wave of C-47s, Waco, and Horsa gliders carrying 13,400 American and 7,000 British paratroopers. One of the most impressive sights of any maritime action. Wave after wave of medium and light bombers could be seen sweeping down the invasion beaches to drop their bombs. It was the largest air armada ever gathered. The Allies flew 14,000 sorties that day. The Germans, 250. Twin-engine bombers were highly effective in low-level attacks, but heavier bombers proved to be inaccurate and largely ineffective. After the area bombardment began, the Germans began firing over our Allied battleships and destroyers protecting the invasion force. As the landing craft were heading for the beaches, the ships opened fire, sending huge shells over the heads of the assaulting troops and into the French countryside.
June 6, 1944 was very wet, with gale force winds and deteriorating rapidly, not the sort of weather to make a land on the beach. The waves were about 30 feet high, and the ship was thrown out large and cold.
We hit the beach. The ramp was dropped, and the steel doors opened to reveal about 20 to 30 yards of water-covered beach for us to negotiate. We began to get heavy mortar fire. We left the craft knee-deep in water, holding our rifles above our heads. God help us.
Sorry. East of Utah Beach, Omaha became the American troops' special, unrelenting inferno.
We hit the sandbar, dropped the ramp. Soldiers in the boat received a hail of machine gun bullets. The Army lieutenant was immediately killed.
Through naval gunfire, small arms, artillery and mortar fire, aircraft overhead, engine noise, and a continuous German barrage, the 116th and 16th Infantry Regiments persevered despite staggering losses. Despite the thousands of casualties at Omaha Beach, the day belonged to the Americans, and the Atlantic Wall had been cracked. Over 12 hours after the first troops stormed ashore, the battle was won. The reason we stormed Normandy like we did was because the soldiers would rather have fought the whole German army than go back on the ships and be as seasick as they were ever going to be. Those soldiers couldn't wait to get on dry land. Nothing would have got in their way. They would have torn tanks to pieces with their bare hands. around like a cork. We are not due to touch down until 0745. As we gradually near the shore, we can see the different ships firing, also batteries of rockets firing. When they go off, there is a terrific flash of flame. We are within half a mile of shore by now, and several of the chaps are quite seasick. The engines are speeded up, and we are making our run for the shore. We can see the beach, although the seas are running high. We can see a big pillbox with the shells bursting around it and apparently doing no damage at all. The machine gun bullets are starting to whine around our craft, and the boys are keeping their heads down.
Here we go. The ramp is down. We were in water up to our waists and sometimes up to our chests. We waded ashore and it was pretty slow work. We hit the beach. Machine guns were making us play hopscotch as we crossed it at the wall.
There was something. While I was waiting on shore, I could hear one of our pipers playing Bonnie Dundee on the ship behind us, and we were really getting piped into action.
Bombing at Juno Beach proved just as ineffective for the Canadians as it had at Omaha. German defenders held their fire while mines took out the approaching landing craft. For the Canadians, the battle was similar to the American struggle at Omaha. An overwhelming enemy force pounding them relentlessly as they struggled across open stretches of sand. Although proportionately the casualty rate was similar, at the end of the day, the Canadians advanced farther inland than any other Allied force. The British put 29,000 men ashore at Sword and suffered only 630 casualties, but inflicted far greater casualties on the Germans. Months of horror and combat lay ahead, but in less than a year, Hitler's 1,000-year Reich would be shattered in the rubble of Berlin. Changed my whole attitude to life and death. Life has become very precious, and I have resolved to enjoy every minute I am privileged to remain. that progress is not inevitable. But neither was victory upon these beaches. Now, as then, the inner voice tells us to stand up and move forward. Now, as then, free people must choose. Victory Pyrotechnics thanks you for your attendance and wishes you a wonderful evening and a safe journey home. Follow Victory Pyrotechnics on Facebook